Okay. So I usually teach this as a pop-up, but I think in this, I think I probably will just pop up into the chat. I have the chat window up so I can see it. So instead of popping up by unmuting, if you could please pop up into the chat. And let's just talk about, everybody here is familiar with, everybody here has been to a deli counter at a supermarket. So let's just throw into the chat if you can, and I'll read them back out for the benefit of the recording. What are the constraints on a deli counter? What are some of the possible constraints? Everybody's been to a deli counter. You go, you take a number, you ask for some amount of something, and then you walk away. But there's a complex drum buffer rope system around the deli counter. Exactly. Deli workers, the person servicing the customer, the availability. In other words, do we have enough food for everybody? Where is the food located? If the food is located far away and the worker has to walk a long way, it's going to affect our efficiency. What are some other things? I have a limitation, for example, on the number of slicers at a deli. I only have a couple of slicers. I only have a couple of scales. I have to learn how to share them. Right, David, packaging. These are things that constrain our systems. Checkout constrains the systems. They're manual, complex processes that slow down our throughput. So now you as a deli manager, you have to think about how do you buffer those constraints? Well, the easy way that we buffer, and this is my classic example of using a drum buffer rope system, is we have the drum is what? The drum is when you take that, when you get that ticket, now you have an established cadence, or at least you know what order you're going to be dealt with in. What's the buffer? The buffer is you waiting and then calling your YouTube number ticket. Your number is, you're waiting for someone to call that number. You know what order you're going to be processed in. We still can't affect the fact that some customers want more stuff and some want less, but we can at least handle that. What's the rope? When the deli guy calls your number, and that's your signal to go and enter the processing. And there's more constraints even than that, right? We have to say, well, if I go up there and I say I want some smoked turkey, and my friend John Schneider goes over there and says I want some smoked turkey, well, who gets it first? You know, I have to wait while they slice up John's turkey, and then he walks away and he's gone and I'm still waiting. Of course, John, we know. It's like, so that's a perfect example of drum buffer rope. So the question is, how do we apply the same ideas as this drum buffer rope to building software? How do we figure out, how do we corral the problems around a value stream and do it? And the answer is really not all that much more complex than these type of solutions. We have to think about what are the precious things that require the most time, the most complex, the most cost, and we surround them with a drum buffer rope, and we use that to break the constraint. So the questions you might have if you were a deli market manager was, how many workers should I have? Well, the answer is that depends. If I'm a 24-hour store, I don't need 4 guys at the counter at 2 a.m., right? But if it's 6 o'clock on a Friday, I better have 5 or 6 people at that counter. Or Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning, I better have a bunch of people at the counter. And that's what theory of constraints is about. It's about deciding how to use your resources wisely in order to maximize throughput through a system. It's about finding the places where throughput is slowed down, focusing your attention on opening up the throttle and breaking that constraint. Think about, what would it be like if we didn't have the deli counter system? I mean, people are rude enough to each other with the deli counter system. You ever hear someone say, oh, I was here first? And I'm like, well, just because you're here first, why does that entitle you? My name is before yours in alphabetical order, so I should go first. So it's a good thing we have a little bit of discipline wrapped around the deli counter. Who knows what chaos may be set loose.